Hello, my name is Carolyn Thompson, and I want to get right to what we're studying about. We've just been studying about the Beatitudes in the book of Luke, chapter 6, and I'll just ask John Brunt to give a quick review of the Beatitudes, and then we'll continue on. Okay. John Brunt, and then your name?
John Jones, last I checked. That's
okay, Ivan.
And I haven't checked, so I'm not sure who I am.
Well, short-term memory loss.
Yes.
Okay, John Brunt, sorry.
Well, we have just gone through the Beatitudes and the woes in Luke in our last two programs. Now, in Matthew, we have Beatitudes, and more Beatitudes than we do in Luke.
Okay.
But in Luke, we have Beatitudes and woes. Okay. And Luke says, of course, it's Jesus saying, he's reporting Jesus is saying, blessed are you who are poor. Mm-hmm. Blessed are you who are hungry now, because you're going to be filled. Mm-hmm. Blessed are you who weep now, because you're going to laugh. Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you and insult you because of your faith in Jesus. And then it turns it around and says, but woe to you who are rich now. And woe to you who are filled now, and woe to you who laugh now, and woe to you when everybody speaks well of you. And he says they didn't speak well of the true prophets, they spoke well of the false prophets.
Yeah.
So we have this reversal in Luke of statements of blessing to those who are poor now, statements of woes to those who are rich now. And that's what we've been looking at, and we've been talking about what that means. And I think we especially have to ask what it means for people like us, who, let's face it, are rich. If you look at the world as a whole, probably all of us who are at least middle class in America are in the top 1 or 2% of the wealthiest people in the world.
That's right.
So
we're
it's
not
a little
anything,
hard to listen to this.
We're not anything like these poor that he's talking about.
No.
We're not like that. We are the wealthy. Mm-hmm. We're all the wealthy.
Yes.
You know, I don't think we think of ourselves that way.
That's right, because we can always think of, well, the wealthy are the people over in Beverly Hills who have $12 million mansions, you know, so I'm not wealthy. But if we look at the whole world, it's a very different perspective.
Well, look at the educations we have, the cars that we drive, the homes that we live in. Mm-hmm. When do we have to miss a meal? When do we have to miss having a full meal? Our meals are very full. We can eat all we want. We have really an awful lot. And so Jesus is really focusing in on those poor folk who really need. And God is going to bless them. He's going to reverse their situation. That's a wonderful thing to hear.
John Jones?
Well, I think that's a pretty good summation.
Okay.
We could say it again, but better we just invited people to read it again, because it bears repeating, doesn't it?
So, and they can read it again in Matthew. Matthew has more of a spiritual.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Ivan, would you continue reading, please?
Yes.
Verse 27.
And this
love for enemies. Can you believe this?
This is like, I think, in a way, the heart of the gospel.
Oh.
But I say to you that listen, and I want to just stop. I say to you who listen.
Oh.
And I'll just say to you, I say to you who are listening, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who abuse you. If anyone strikes you on the cheek, offer the other also. From anyone who takes away your coat, do not withhold even your shirt. Give to everyone who begs from you, and if anyone takes away your goods, do not ask for them again. I just read that, didn't I?
Yes.
Do to others as you would have them do to you.
Yes.
That comes at the climax of all of this and helps us to orient all of these sayings, it seems to me.
Well, we stop right there, and John Jones, tell me what is being said here. How can we put this in contemporary situations?
Well, a lot is being said, but basically, both in his time and our time, the gospel breathes with a fresh breath of air across people's lives and basically breaks wide open the scripts by which we live. That is to say, if I'm a Roman soldier, I have my script. I swat people with the broadside of my sword, and I say, here, carry this, or give me that cloak, or whatever. That's my script. If I'm a poor, humble peasant, my part of the script is to say, yes, O honorable centurion, sir, and I carry your load, or whatever. But now, all of a sudden, everything is different. Now they take my coat. Well, hey, by the way, would you like a shirt while we're at it? Which means now the script is broken on both sides. Now who's in charge? Not the soldier anymore. This is my free will gift. Take it. It's a great old shirt. I hope you like it as much as I did. Now the gospel...
Now, even though it needs to be washed.
You may be sure it did.
Yeah.
But now the gospel is just breezing fresh ways of seeing and being right across the whole landscape of their lives. Jesus is just pulling the plug on the scripted ways and saying, look again and look through fresh eyes. And
That's right.
Just start being the change you want to see. Start living that kingdom that is upside down. Let's do it.
And in Jesus' time, who was in charge? Who would be telling people, give me your coat, or give me your shirt,
Yeah,
or
well,
carry my load? If he says 1 mile, take it 2 miles. Who
These are
is
people
he
of-
talking to?
These are people of power, and the ones on the other side are people of no power. That's very clear. I mean, in Matthew, this is a court case, this business of giving away coats and shirts and all that kind of thing. This is a court case, and someone wants to sue you. You haven't paid them as you ought to pay them, and so on. And the one who hits you is probably someone higher than you are on the scale, the societal scale. So these are the powerful, and these are the weak. I heard one time a commentator on the radio saying, it is advocating that we not talk about the rich and the poor and the powerful and the weak so much. The real contrast is between the good and the evil. You know, let's talk about that. And I agree that basically we want to talk about that. But so often the evil manifests itself through those who have power and who have means. So often that happens. And so it comes together. What I like about this passage here is, and it shows the creativity of the gospel writers, if you read all of these materials in Luke 6, verses 27 through 31, they're in different places in Matthew.
Scattered.
They're scattered in Matthew, and Luke brings it all together, and by bringing it together, he really helps to define what it means to love your enemies.
Yeah.
Now, in Matthew, it does say, love your enemies, do good to those, and so on. And that's it. But here in Luke, look at all the things that he brings from here and there to define what that love of enemies involves. Surely he's not saying, like your enemies. Oh, man, you hit me in the face, you take away my stuff. Oh, that's grand. I
Bless
love it.
you.
I love it when you do that. He's not asking us to
No.
like them. He's asking us to love them. And that is defined in a very Hebraic kind of way here. Love your enemies, and that is to say, do good to those who hate you. And furthermore, you want to know what to do? Well, bless those who curse you and who abuse you. Now, we just read up in verse 22, blessed are you when people hate you, when they exclude you, revile you, defame you, and so on. You're in a blessed state because, you know, your relation with the Son of Man, and you're going to have an inheritance in heaven. But here now, this is the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
You are the victim up above in the 22nd verse. But now you're not really totally the victim, because you can do something with those people who do that to you. And what do? Strike back at them? No, you do just the opposite of what they do. That's amazing. And we might rejoice in this, but this is pretty tough, isn't it? To actually treat well a person who has despised you and hurt you.
So in Jesus' day, the Jews were downtrodden. They'd been taken over by the Romans. And so a lot of this actually did take place. That's why Jesus addressed it, don't you think?
Oh, it's pretty grim, actually. But again, it's almost poking fun at these people. You want my shirt? Hey, it's only a shirt. If you want to live on that level, that's your problem. I'm bigger than you. I'm not hung up about this shirt. See what it says in a way?
Well, it's what it is you're not just, how can I say, I've heard students and others say, you mean we are to be carpets, we're to be rugs that people walk upon? But no, you're actually taking actions here that actually show up the wrong that the other one does.
Right.
In Matthew, I mean, this business about the shirt and all that, it's written a little bit differently. But the point is, someone's taking you to court. He wants a certain part of your clothing, and so on. And when you stand in court, you only have two pieces, so you give him all of it, and you're standing there stark raving naked. That won't do. I mean, you've called attention to the wrong that is being done, I think.
Yeah.
And it may be hyperbole, but it's almost saying, at least to me, I don't know what you think, do something.
Yeah.
You don't do what they do to you, but you do something to call attention to those who do wrong. This is a different way of fighting against evil.
Okay, I'm going to read by way of review, just so we can address, because there's an awful lot in these few verses. Don't you agree?
This is packed.
Okay. Starting with verse 27, chapter 6 in the book of Luke. But I tell you who hear me, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who mistreat you. If someone strikes you on one cheek, turn to him the other also. If someone takes your cloak, do not stop him from taking your tunic. Give to everyone who asks you, and if anyone takes what belongs to you, do not demand it back. Do to others as you would have them do to you. The beautiful golden rule. All right. Now, to put it in our day and age, have you ever had somebody who maybe started saying things behind your back? Have you ever had somebody, you thought everything was going good, and you're having a conversation at a group of all your friends, and they just interrupt you and start talking something else because they don't want to give you the time of day? Have you ever been from a family that is poor, and maybe you wanted education and you were unable to get it? Some people want an education, and it's hard for them to get it, and they're looked down upon. How do you address situations like that?
Well, I think there's something natural in all of us that wants to get even, that wants to retaliate, that when we are wronged, we have a reaction inside that says, I'm not going to let them do that to me. And the way we usually respond to that is to say, okay, I'm going to
show them.
I'm going to show them.
Yeah.
And usually we want to show them just a little more even than they showed us, It's usually not just get even, but it's get even plus a little bit.
Yeah.
That's how wars get started.
That's right.
But he's right. That's how people do.
That's how we are. And
Sure.
Jesus is saying we need to break that natural mold that in him we don't react the way we naturally have it in our bones to react. But instead, we think about other people in a new way and recognize that we would not want the other person to treat us. We don't like the way that person is treating us. So when we do it back to them, what are we doing? We're on the same level, aren't we?
Well, that's right. And I must say, there's got to be some foundation out of which this kind of instruction is given to us. It's obvious that this calls for transformation
That's right.
of us. But more than that, and before that, it has got to be that it's something about God and how God deals with people. Now, if you just go a little further in this thing, the second time he says love your enemies is found in verse 35. But love your enemies, he's coming back to that theme. Do good and lend, expecting nothing in return. We've heard that already. Your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High. For he is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. So, and here's to me the whole ethic of the New Testament. Be merciful, Matthew says perfect, be merciful as your heavenly Father is merciful. In other words, what we do is to be an outflow of what God has done to us. And when you read this, I mean, all of us here who love Paul, how can we fail to hear, let us say, Romans 5? You know, if while you were enemies, you were reconciled to God by the death of his Son. I mean, really, this is the imitation of God. And if we haven't received that love of God and realized that we are enemies, he treated us a certain way when we didn't deserve to be treated that way. And so this ethic we have is to treat others the same way, so that you could say the golden rule.
But that's human nature.
I know.
That's human nature. How are you going to get away from it?
A
Because
certain
I'll tell
relation
you.
to God, that's my point.
Yes. Now there is something. This love is not agape love or whatever you call it, or love between a husband and wife. Love your enemies. Isn't there? There's something I came across called agapan. Agapan.
That's the infinitive form of the verb. Yes.
Agape. That's
Yeah, that
agape
is
love.
agape.
That's
Oh,
agape
my.
love.
And it's a feeling of benevolence towards others.
Yes.
For their own sake, not for my sake. Yeah.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
But
That's the
I
defining
think human nature being what it is, it's awfully hard when you know somebody has wronged you or whatever. I'm just kind of making it up as I go along.
Sure.
Well, I think people have a hard time because some of them don't have the strength to say, well, I can stand up for myself and I don't care what they're saying or how a teacher is treating me in school, and I know I deserve an A and I got a B- and things like that. How do you cope with that? That is tough.
It is tough.
Yeah.
We've all been there. Those of us who are on each side of the desk in school. The issue is not our strength. That's not the point. The issue is what Christ has done for me. And it is not simply a matter of Christ giving me the strength. It is a matter of Christ giving me the humility. We, as you said, John, see other people through new eyes, but ultimately this is about the self. Who and what I think I am, and how I identify myself with other people.
Yeah.
Child psychologists tell us that one of the most important watersheds in child maturation is the ability to identify with another, sense their feelings, and now see the impact of my behavior on them. Christ gets us there
Yes.
in ways that nothing else can.
But not only does the Bible tell us to love your enemies, do good to them that hate you, and so forth, but Ellen White in Desire of Ages, she goes a little further. Do you know what I'm referring to? In fact, don't be glad if something happens to that person who's wronged you. Wish only the best for them. Come on, folks.
Yeah.
You can't do that in your own strength.
That is right. We do not have that in us.
No.
Yeah.
And I mean, you might as well get that out in the open because people are hurting. And what are you going to do? Go get on your knees and say, now, Lord, I'm praying for such and so and that group and that teacher. Because after all, I'm a Christian. And so I am going to wish the best for that person. I don't think it's possible. You can go through the motions, but it's awfully hard to feel towards another person.
It's not about feeling.
yeah,
that's the point. Not about feeling.
That's the thing. You can't. Let's face it. There are feelings that come at the moment
Exactly.
that we can't help. Our feelings are spontaneous, and our feelings are not always gracious. I remember one day, I can remember right where it was. It was between Walla Walla, John knows where that is, and Umatilla.
Ah, yes.
And I was on that road going along by the Columbia River there.
Oh, beautiful.
And a truck came out right in front of me. I was driving along, and this big truck pulls out right in front of me.
Slowly.
Slowly.
Yeah.
And there's a hill coming right up after that. So I have to poke all the way up the hill. Finally, I get to the top of the hill, and I pass him when it starts down.
Yeah.
But then he starts barreling down that hill.
Right.
He gets halfway around me, and then there's a curve up there, and he just pulls back over, and I have to get completely off the road. Or,
My, oh my.
and then he takes off, and he just barrels because it's not uphill anymore.
Yeah.
Or he has to go slow.
Yeah.
Well, about 2 miles down the road, I came around the corner, and here was that same truck with a Washington State trooper writing him a ticket.
And you,
Now,
What did,
we know what you said.
what did you do?
at that
Thank
moment,
you, Jesus.
You almost pulled over, didn't you?
Yeah. Did you wave as you went
I
by?
know. but I think you have that momentary feeling
Yeah.
that comes.
He's getting his.
Yeah. And don't tell me you said, "Oh Lord, it's such a shame." I really
No,
wish
it's
the best for him.
But we don't have to act according to those feelings.
There you go.
And if we're in a situation where we have a choice of what happens to him, we can still act for his good.
That's the point.
Because we realize that what we have done is a whole lot worse than what he's done to me. What I have done to my Lord is a whole lot worse than anything he's done to me. And the Lord has been gracious
see,
to
that's
me
the point.
and accepted me by his grace. And if that's the way God could treat me, then how do I treat him?
And that means that for the Christian, we don't have just a secular ethic.
Yeah.
Do good. It's always like the last verse of this chapter. Be merciful, be good, as your heavenly Father is merciful and good. That is the key to biblical ethics, right there.
That's the key, because we cannot will to love. Jesus says, love, he says it twice here, and he says it to that ruler you mentioned a bit ago. Thou shalt love the Lord thy God and thy neighbor. How do you command that? You can't. But you can command yourself to act. And out of the act, the love can, believe it or not, grow.
Well, and this is a good time to cite the last verse of the book of chapter 12 of the book of Romans. Do not repay evil for evil, but overcome evil with good. That's exactly what I think Jesus is teaching here. Overcome evil with good. But as you say, it's not a matter of feeling, because our feelings will. I mean, remember, he said, love your enemies. Jesus presumes there are people who are our adversaries and enemies that do mistreat us. We're not saying you're great guys. We're not saying that, Jesus is not saying you like what they do, but you don't do as they do.
Yeah.
You do as he does.
Yeah.
And that's just the difference.
That's the difference.
But that's tough. It isn't easy. Once we've identified this, it isn't easy.
No,
It's tough.
it is.
And the acting in that way is the only way that stops the spiral of evil. Because with our natural tendency to get even, but then to get even plus a little, there's this spiral that goes on. The other person then is going to get even again, plus a little.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we keep going with this spiral of
It never
evil and
ends.
violence. And somewhere it can only stop with those who say, we'll overcome it with good.
Yeah.
That's the script which needs to be broken.
Well, you know, Jesus said one time, blessed are those who are not offended at me. And this is one of the places where we get offended with Jesus, because it really does cut across any ordinary ways of feeling and acting.
Well, I think he's giving us how we should react. But I think he also knows, short of heaven, we're going to have a hard time following that particular way of living because it's difficult. And when you're a little poor person, or maybe you're a child who is the result of a divorce, and one or the other of the parent has remarried, and you don't know where you are. You don't feel at home with a new stepmother, and you don't, in the other home, you don't feel at home with a new stepfather. So the child doesn't know where they belong. So there's all sorts of situations where it's going to be very hard for a child growing up in that kind of an atmosphere to say, love your enemies, do good to them that hate you, when obviously that particular step parent has had it in for you. It's very hard. And of course that's an extreme situation, but I'm sure there are children of parents and divorce who have grown up in that kind of a situation who've never gotten over it. But I don't think Jesus condemns them. I think he realizes what they've been through. And the poor in spirit, they are really poor in spirit. Now, Ivan, I want you to comment on what I just said, and I've only got about 30 seconds.
Well, I'm just going to say this. Forgiveness. See, I mean, we pray. Do we not pray for forgiveness?
Yes.
I mean, forgive us. I mean, Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount. Forgive us our debts. I mean, Jesus knows that we need to come always for forgiveness because we do come short. Doesn't want us to come short, but we do come short.
We do.
So I think we need, but I think the more you receive that forgiveness, then once again you're propelled back into society to be that kind of person. You just came to a God who forgave you for your stuff.
And now this is Carolyn Thompson for Searching for Answers.